Good morning. It is August 24th, 2023. Doing the New York Times Daily Newsletter by David Leonhardt and Ian Prasad Philbrick. Covering the Republican debate, which is kind of a joke. Prigozhin and ICE. Running for second, the 8 Republican presidential candidates who took the stage last night had a lot going for them. There was a sitting senator and 2 sitting governors, as well as an entrepreneur, a few former governors, a former UN ambassador, and a former vice president. Polls show that several of them have high approval ratings among Republican voters. In a different year, the race among them might be a fascinating one. But in the 2024 Republican campaign is shaping up to be unlike any in memory. Donald Trump remains so popular among Republican primary voters that there is no obvious path for any other candidate to displace him. He leads among virtually every Republican subgroup, both men and women, those with household incomes above and below 100,000, evangelicals and non-evangelicals, moderate and conservative Republicans, Fox News devotees, and people who get their news elsewhere and in each region of the country, as well as in rural areas, suburbs, and cities. Yup, Trump is the king of the Republican Party, despite the media disliking it. It is what it is. It's going to be Trump Vivek 24. That's going to be the way it is. In every other modern primary campaign that did not involve an incumbent president, candidates had different bases from which to build the winning strategy. Trump looks more like an incumbent president trying to fight off pesky challengers. Yep, pretty much. He could still lose the nomination, to be clear, especially given his legal troubles. Nope. That just makes him stronger. Voting won't begin for several months, but there don't seem to be any tactics that his opponents can adopt that would succeed on their own. Their best hope, as Nate Cohen, the Times chief political analyst, suggests, maybe he's working for the Times as their chief political analyst. Did ABC fire him? Was he bad enough for them? Maybe positioning themselves as the second choice of Trump supporters in the event that a conviction of Trump upends the campaign. For more than 8 years now, since he declared his 2016 presidency in New York, Trump has dominated the Republican Party, notes our colleague Shane Goldmacher, who covers politics. Many Republicans, a long and varied list starting with Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz in 2016 have tried to displace Trump without success. Neither Trump's loss to Joe Biden in 2020, nor the poor performance of his preferred candidates in 2022 midterms, nor the 4 recent indictments have altered the situation. It's because not a lot of people that support him think he lost to Joe Biden. Even if he did lose to Joe Biden, he gained 11 million votes, which is the first time in history that an incumbent has gained votes and lost. So to say that he's hated, you're not being honest, because if he was hated, he wouldn't have gained 11 million votes. In the rest of today's newsletter, we review the highlights of last night's debate, which Trump skipped, at least for now, though. We recommend that you remember this year's primary debates are unlikely to change the campaign on their own. The candidates, Ron DeSantis is done. His campaign is over. It was over before this even started. Ron is at best a vice presidential candidate. The only path for Ron DeSantis to ever being the president is this. Trump takes Vivek as his VP this year. Trump wins. And then in 28, Vivek becomes the president and Ron DeSantis can be his vice president. Spend 8 years as the vice president for Vivek. And then Ron has his shot. That's it. That's his only possible path. All right. So DeSantis talked loudly and rapidly, but he spoke less than several other candidates and dodged questions about abortion on January 6th. See who had the most speaking time. The entrepreneur, Vivek Ramaswamy, seemed to channel Trump on stage. He cast himself as a businessman outsider and tussled with Chris Christie and Nikki Haley. Mike Pence defended rejecting Trump's request to overturn the 2020 election, but struggled to respond to criticisms of the Trump administration's corona lockdowns. And it's kind of funny. He defended his request. I didn't watch it, but he has also admitted that he had the power to do it. It was legal. What Trump asked him to do was not illegal. These prosecutions against Trump are absurd. They're specious from the beginning because they're creating a narrative that it was illegal to challenge the 2020 election results, that Pence couldn't have done what he could do. Yes, he could. And the alternate electors were if their lawsuits prevailed. They weren't doing anything criminal. It's insane that we're doing this. Instead of debating, Trump appeared in a pre-taped interview with Tucker Carlson in which he downplayed the violence on January 6th. That's all you're going to talk about that interview. They talked about a wide-ranging subject, and of course, January 6th, the great selfie the great selfie insurrection where people filed through velvet ropes. Yeah, severe attack, wasn't it? The audience booed Chris Christie and Nikki Haley, took the moderate lane. Yeah, Chris Christie's a joke. Nobody thinks he was serious. The issues. The debate largely ignored Trump and his legal troubles, but when the Fox News moderators asked whether the candidates would support him if he was convicted and became the nominee, just two said no, Christie and Asa Hutchinson, the former Arkansas governor. Pence and Senator Tim Scott said they would sign a national abortion ban after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Haley, the only female candidate, called for a consensus approach. Candidates were asked to raise their hands if they believed humans were fueling climate change. Though there is no scientific dispute on the question. Actually, there is. There is no scientific consensus that says humans cause climate change, which isn't even a thing. Besides, it's global boiling now, guys. Let's see. We are not school children. Ramaswamy said the climate change agenda is a hoax. Haley acknowledged climate change was real. Only Ramaswamy and DeSantis said they opposed more funding for Ukraine, though DeSantis hedged. Haley and Pence called Vladimir Putin a murderer. The candidate, so of course, more war, always war. The candidates attacked Biden over inflation, his son Hunter, and the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, all valid criticisms. And of course, the Times is like, oh, there's no inflation. Steaks will always cost $15. DeSantis exaggerated his corona response. Pence misled about the border. Here's a fact check. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with that. On the Daily, Maggie Haberman explains the debate. Nobody cares. Commentary. They hardly laid a glove on him tonight, Kellyanne Conway said of Trump, because they know that in attacking Trump, you're alienating his voters. Yep. Ramaswamy is by far the closest candidate to Trump in terms of media ability. He's good at commanding a stage. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And he could actually beat Trump if he decided he wanted to go full scorched earth, but he might ruin the country in the process of doing that. And I don't think that he wants to do that. I do believe that he is going to be the vice president for Trump. NPR's Eric Dagans criticized the Fox moderators for losing control of the debate at times, while the Times' Frank Bruni praised them for focusing on issues other than Trump. Times opinion writers scored the candidates' performances. Brett Stevens called Nikki Haley the star of the evening. Michael Cottle said she was confident. Woman found Vivek Ramaswamy's tech bro persona insufferable. Get used to it. Vivek will be the vice president. Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner mercenary group and of a brief mutiny in Russia 2 months ago, was listed as a passenger on a plane that crashed north of Moscow. It didn't crash. It was shot down by air defenses. And I don't know if I really believe it. I don't know if I believe the coup. I don't know if I believe Prigozhin's complaints about ammo back in Bakhmut. I think it was all just a rope-a-dope. I don't even know that I believe he's dead. Honestly, who knows? Who really knows with this? Russian officials have not confirmed whether Prigozhin was on board, but said all 10 people on the plane had died. The cause of the crash isn't yet clear. Yeah, it is. It was shot down. There's no denying it. But when asked who was responsible, Biden said there's not much that happens at Russia that Putin's not behind. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was shot down. You can see it. There's Rudy's mugshot. They should have had that girl that was smiling, Jenna, whatever her name was. Rudy Giuliani turned himself in the Atlanta jail to be booked in Georgia election interference case. Trump said he would turn himself in today. This is absurd. We're charging lawyers. That hasn't ever happened before. That is what you do in fascist countries and totalitarian countries. And I think it's hysterical that the media is saying, oh yeah, this is totally normal. Let's see. The South Carolina Supreme Court upheld a near total ban on abortion, reversing an earlier decision. I like how they say that. It's at 6 weeks. It's not a total ban. You can still kill your baby. You just have to do it within 6 weeks. Oh boy, that's so difficult. Artificial intelligence. Sales of NVIDIA chips, which are essential to building AI systems, continue to soar. The company's revenue has doubled over the past year. Researchers translated a paralyzed woman's brain activity into AI-generated speech. Will the federal government regulate AI? History suggests it could take a while. They're not going to do well. AI is probably the biggest threat to humanity. International, the BRICS group, club of nations that formed to tilt the international order away from the West, invited 6 countries to join: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. More than 350 fires have broken out in Greece this past week. This is the worst summer for wildfires on record. Probably not. That's probably an exaggerated claim. India landed a spacecraft near the moon's south pole, becoming the 4th country to successfully complete a lunar landing. Good for them. Japan began releasing treated radioactive wastewater from Fukushima into the ocean. China said it would suspend imports of Japanese seafood. I didn't know that China was actually importing Japanese seafood. I feel like they probably weren't to begin with anyway. That's just a token thing. Other big stories. A man opened fire at a biker bar in Southern California as a crowd gathered for a rock show and spaghetti night. At least 4 people are dead, including the gunman. You're not mentioning that he was stopped by a good guy with the gun inside of the bar. A gender clinic in St. Louis was overwhelmed by new patients and struggling to provide them with mental health care before landing in a political firestorm. Well, yeah, when you change... when you change kids' genders and say, like do those kinds of things, you're going to have problems. Terry Funk, the Hall of Fame professional wrestler whose hardcore fighting style inspired decades of bloody brawls and entertaining matches, died at 79. Hip hop is now America's poetry. I mean, that's what it was always. Rap stands for rhythm and poetry. Like, that's not news. Chinese dissident fled the country with a telescope and a compass. That would be fun. Let's see. San Francisco 49ers announced Trey Lance, the starter, heading into last season as its third-string quarterback yesterday. Boy, that hurts. I was a 49er fan, but I stopped liking football after Kaepernick ruined it. During their downtime, Ukrainian soldiers sometimes play the video game World of Tanks on their cell phones. The game, which features virtual tanks destroying each other, has long been popular in Ukraine. May seem like a baffling choice for an actual battlefield, but some soldiers said it helped them to disconnect from the realities of war, while others found it soothing to play a game they loved before the fighting began. More salad. Every day, always salad. Add chickpeas to this beet salad. Just get a steak. You're good. Buy new boxer briefs. Ugh, horrible. Okay, so let's do day in history stuff. Today's highlight in history: on August 24, AD 79, long dormant mountains of Vesuvius erupted, burying the Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum in volcanic ash. An estimated 20,000 people died. In 1814, during the War of 1812, British forces invaded Washington, D.C., setting fire to the Capitol, which was still under construction at the time, and the White House, as well as other public buildings. In 1912, Congress passed a measure creating the Alaska Territory. In 1932, Amelia Earhart embarked on a 19-hour flight from Los Angeles to Newark, New Jersey, making her the first woman to fly solo nonstop from coast to coast. In 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty came into force. That would be NATO. In 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Communist Control Act, outlawing the Communist Party in the United States. Way to go, Ike. Too bad they let it come back. In 1981, Mark David Chapman was sentenced in New York to 20 years to life in prison for murdering John Lennon. Chapman remains imprisoned. In 1989, baseball commissioner A. Bartlett Giamatti banned Pete Rose from the game for betting on his own team, the Cincinnati Reds. Which, you know what? He bet on his own team. He should be allowed to be in the Hall of Fame. Let Pete go. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew smashed into Florida, causing $30 billion in damage. 43 U.S. deaths were to blame on the storm. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union declared that Pluto was no longer a full-fledged planet, demoting it to the status of dwarf planet, in an egregious act against Pluto. In 2016, a 6.2 magnitude earthquake reduced 3 central Italian towers to rubble and killed nearly 300 people. In 2019, police in Aurora, Colorado, responding to a report of a suspicious person, used a chokehold to subdue Elijah McLean, a 23-year-old black man. He suffered cardiac arrest on the way to the hospital and was later declared brain dead and taken off life support. 3 officers were placed on leave but returned to the force after a prosecutor found insufficient evidence to support charging them. The officers and 2 paramedics were later indicted by a grand jury on manslaughter and other charges following an investigation by Attorney General Phil Weiser, ordered by Governor Jared Polis. I wonder if they were convicted, it doesn't say. In 2020, Republicans formally nominated President Donald Trump for a second time on the opening day of a scaled-down convention. During a visit to the convention city of Charlotte, North Carolina, Trump told delegates that the only way they can take this election from us if it's a rigged election. Anger over a shooting of a black man, Jacob Blake, by police spilled in the streets of Kenosha, Washington for a second night. Remember, that's the guy who went to grab a knife and the police kept telling him don't, and after he was kidnapping his kids. August 24th, guitarist, these are birthdays. Okay, so birthdays. Guitarist Mason Williams is 85. Singer Marshall Thompson of the Chilates is 81. Actor Ann Archer is 76. Actor Joe Regalbuto Murphy Brown is 74. Oh, I remember him. Yeah, I remember Murphy Brown. That was fun. Actor Kevin Dunn. Samantha Who is 68. Actor Steve Guttenberg is 65. Actor Jared Harris, the clown Mad Men, is 62. Talk show host Craig Kilborn is 61. Singer John Bush from Anthrax is 60. Wow, he made it to 60. Good for him. Actor Marley Matlin is 58. Newsman David Gregory is 53. Country singer Kristen Osborne of She Daisy is 53. Director Ava DeVury, TV's Queen Sugar films Selma, is 51. Actor comedian Dave Chappelle is 50. Oh, Dave's 50. Cool. Actor James D'Arcy, Agent Carter, Dunkirk is 50. Actor Carmine Giovanzio, CSI New York is 50. Actor Alex O'Loughlin, Hawaii Five-0 is 47. Actor Chad Michael Murray, One Tree Hill, A Cinderella Story is 42. Drummer Jeffrey Gilbert Cutlass is 40. Actor Rupert Grint, Harry Potter is 35. So I guess we only care about millennials and up. Forget all the Gen Z. All right, that is it.